Hey, everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
All I want to know if you got your popcorn ready. Do you got your popcorn ready?
DetroitSportsPodcast.com presents to you The Doc One-on-One with Johnny Kane from Fox Sports Detroit, new host and reporter. Been with us in Detroit since late December, early January. And I just want to say thank you, Johnny, for accepting my invitation to come in here and to chat sports and to go in depth regarding all things sports. And I greatly appreciate it. I hope that I get a chance to interview a lot more people and go in depth. And so I welcome you to the one-on-one interview with the Doc.
Yeah, I feel good about it, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate the invitation. Hopefully this will be the first of many.
Now, you come to us from Kansas City, reporting live last year. You were there for quite a bit of time. Tell us a little bit about your experience coming to us from Kansas City.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. A lot of people, I love my time in Kansas City. I was there for 3.5 years, and then before that I lived 5.5 years working in Topeka, Kansas. So I covered the Kansas City sports scene for, right around 9 years. And I think most people view Kansas City as kind of a flyover, city. I mean, you're coming into the airport maybe, and then you're heading farther west or moving on to Colorado. But it's a beautiful Midwestern city. Enjoyed my time there thoroughly. It's a great sports town. They don't have all what we have here in Detroit now because they have Major League Soccer, obviously the NFL, and Major League Baseball. But so I didn't really have a bunch of experience covering hockey while I was out there, but anyway, certainly I had an understanding of what was going on with the Tigers here because the Royals were constantly trying to chase down the Tigers within the division, and last year's as close as they came, coming up within a game. But enjoyed my time in Kansas City. There's no question about that, and a lot of good people still there, and anytime you spend that part of almost 9 years of your life in a city, or in an area, you certainly always have good feelings about it. But I'm thrilled about coming to Detroit, because I grew up, not far from here. So it's good to be a little bit closer to family and everybody else.
Now, tell everyone that's listening, what is your role now with Fox Sports Detroit?
So Fox Sports Detroit, again, like host and reporter for all three of the sports, the professional sports that we cover. So obviously, team partner with the Pistons, Red Wings, and Tigers. And so from a day-to-day basis, you'll see a lot of the guys, Justin White, Matt Shepard, and we have a ton of great guys obviously over there, but we'll kind of rotate around of, sometimes you're hosting a pregame show, sometimes you're hosting a postgame show, sometimes you're reporting pregame, in-game, postgame, and so for all the sports. And so anyway, sometimes you're on site, sometimes you're in studio. It's nice because you get a good variety of, every day is different, right? So, one day you could be reporting for the Red Wings, the next day you could be a pregame host for the Pistons, and then the next day you could be doing something with the Tigers. Now, obviously, the Pistons aren't playing now, but, that's why we call it April in the D, because, there's that time when all three are playing and you're wearing a bunch of different hats. But anyway, great operation to work for, obviously, and I don't just say that because, they're sending me a paycheck, but honestly, I'm very thrilled to be there, and it's a good operation.
And I really enjoy talking to journalists who've made a career in sports. It's one of those things where we get a chance to pick your brain a little bit, get a sense of how you developed a passion for sports. I can tell you myself, I knew exactly. I was 7 years old, and I had a family relative who came in to live with us, and it was 1986, and it was the 1986 World Cup. He was a big fan of soccer with Diego Maradona. He had all the games on, and as a little 6 to 7 year old boy, I was really caught up in the competition, the excitement of the games, and that's how I started to develop a passion for sports and competition, and then Detroit sports. So then when the 87 season happened for Detroit, and they had that great playoff run at the end, I was hooked. And so since then I've become really, fascinated with sports, and especially Detroit sports. So talk about when you first realized, hey, I had an interest in sports and some of the teams you grew up watching.
Yeah, well, definitely. I grew up about 100 miles from Detroit. So I grew up in Ohio, in a real small town called Delta, about 2,500 strong. I knew when I was a kid, I love, it's a lot of us, I'm sure a lot of the listeners too. I mean, that's what you do. You played sports and we didn't have I'm not saying we're going way back, but we didn't have like a lot of the video games and things. I mean, what we did, we were active, and my brother was only, a year apart. So, we were always outside playing with our friends, and I wore out my basketball hoop at home and all that. So I always had an appreciation for sports. And then when I was, 9 years old, I remember watching Super Bowl 24. And I remember that was kind of when I, started to get hooked, right? I mean, it was, you start to realize when it's running through your veins how important sports is to you. And so everybody's a fan and whatnot. But in high school, I was bringing the sports page to work or to the lunchroom, and I'd sit by myself, and then you'd read the box scores from the night before and try to sit by yourself. And most people just thought I wasn't popular because I always was a loner trying to sit by myself. And people would say, well, I'll sit with you. And what I wanted to say was, hey, I'm trying to read the paper here. But anyway, so that's when you started getting appreciation for it. And then I started writing for, the high school paper, that came out once every 3-4 months or whatnot. And then went on to college and realized that's what I wanted to do, broadcast journalism, because I didn't have what it took to be an athlete. But I think it's important, like you say, there's a lot of people are sports fans, and a lot of people would say, man, John, what you're doing, it's, man, I love what what a great job, it's a great job. Well, the reality is until you get, to the highest point, it's not a highly lucrative job, right? I mean, you do it for the passion of doing it. And so that, for me, that was it. It was like, I don't, to me, it wasn't about, hey, I'm trying to make $1 million doing it. But what I wanted to do is just have the opportunity, go to games every day and be, kind of the eyes and ears for everybody and be an analyst sometimes and sometimes, take you inside some stories, the background that people don't know about. And I remember growing up when I told we had 5 kids in our family, and Monday Night Football was in Eastern time was late, and all the other kids had to go to bed. And I would tell my mom, I say, hey, one day, I want to be doing broadcasting. I said, so can I stay up to watch the game? I said, I'm doing research, Ma. And she bought it. So anyway, she would let me do that. And so those are just some of the memories I have looking back. And I say, yeah, I guess we kind of knew from early on that we'd have an opportunity. So luckily, haven't let her down yet.
Yeah, with me, the funny thing was my first foray into trying to sneak things past my parents was the Pistons series versus Portland, and the games would start at 10:30. And now I'm like a 9 or 10-year-old trying to go to school, and so I'm like trying to watch the game and avoid the parents too. So
yeah, you
know, and the games would go late and too. So I could remember Vinnie Johnson hit that shot, and the Pistons won the championship. So, and Detroit has such a rich sports history that hopefully we get a chance to have some championships that you can cover, and things like that. Now, speaking of your reporting, what I like when I see reporters and when I watch on TV, I really like those that can keep things light and have a great time. And I can tell with you, based on some of the research that we did, that you have a lot of fun reporting, that you don't take things too seriously. And you've had a couple videos go viral on YouTube. And I want to play a couple of them and get your reactions to some of the things that have happened in your reporting work. All right? So this, I believe, happened when you were at KMBC in Kansas City. And you're live on the air, and this happens.
Like a Raul Ibanez and Josh Willingham, those guys haven't seen the field in the postseason. And guys like probably the biggest leader on this team right now. Whoa, my goodness. That was a good one. But that would knock me out of my shoes.
So you're on the air reporting, and there's this fascination with people wanting to mess with reporters that are reporting to try and either, jolt them or say something, inappropriate. Yeah. And I got a first sense of it, going down to Comerica Park. There was a reporter, this poor guy, just trying, with his cameraman, trying to get this report out, and there were these two guys that would time it perfectly. Every time they would go to start, they jump in, and the reporter was getting upset. But you took it great, and talk about that experience. That was really hilarious, and it got well over 300,000 views on YouTube.
Yeah, it was crazy because it's funny hearing it again. But as I'm bumbling through that live shot, as you can tell, I was like I was. Sometimes with local, TV, we were doing a post-game show out front of Kauffman Stadium, and sometimes they'll just send it to you. And so if we had an hour post-game show, they'd say, hey, vamp for, as long as you can, we're just going to you. So, obviously it's not scripted. And I was just trying to reflect on, on the game and who the leaders on the team were. Anyway, so I'm bumbling through that thing. And I was kind of locked in thought there for a second. I was trying to, dig a name out of the back of my head there. And yeah, it was just one of those moments where, sometimes you just get scared, and it just happened to be at the perfect moment where they got you. And that kid, I mean, that was like a bone-chilling yell from behind. And yeah, I guess that was a natural reaction. And the first words out of my mouth were, "My goodness." And I remember my dad talked to me a couple days after that took off. He said, "My goodness, huh?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I don't think I've ever heard you say those words." He said, "I don't think that's what I would have said, But, the idea was that, you always know you're on, so you didn't want to turn around and, yell something bad. But yeah, the kid was just having a good time. Obviously had a few suds in him. But yeah, it's funny what the internet deems, worthy of, because there have been a lot of reporters that have been spooked, on air. But for whatever reason, they thought that was a good one. And again, the guy wasn't trying to be he wasn't trying to do anything too malicious there. He was just having a little fun with it. And then, so I laughed my way out of that thing. But yeah, that was kind of the first of what was a crazy postseason there for Kansas City.
Yeah, one that resulted in the Kansas City Royals going to the World Series. And another video that was even more popular on YouTube, I believe it was after they clinched to go to the World Series. You interviewed Paul Rudd on the field, and you're having a great time. And then he busts out with this, and this is a very interesting thing he did, because he was very excited, and he was very thrilled to be a fan of Kansas City. And when your team hasn't been there for a long time, you could just tell the excitement. And we'll play this for the audience. Your interview with Paul Rudd. A little clip.
Well, let me ask you, I know a lot of people wondering where you're going to be partying tonight, huh? You don't have to tell us specifically.
I'm going to be partying at my mom's house.
All right, is everybody invited or just select group?
Hey, party at my mom's, man. She's out of town. I got a keg. It's going to be sweet.
All right, party at Paul Rudd's mom's house tonight, Royals fans. We'll send it back to you.
$5 cover.
How funny was that? You could tell a guy like that was having a good time. Talk about what it was like being on the field reporting, Kansas City's ALCS championship win.
Yeah, I mean, that was, again, another one of those times where everything's happening around you. Everybody's excited. I mean, I was excited just to be a part of covering it. And Paul and those guys, they're like Jason Sudeikis and Rob Riggle. A lot of those guys, diehard Royals fans and Chiefs fans, and they're sometimes at games. And Paul obviously was having a little bit of fun there. And they just played that clip the other day, actually, on Letterman, which was crazy because Paul Rudd was on there. I call him Paul like we're buddies or something. But anyway, obviously you can tell just a really good dude. Yeah, he just had some fun with it. And the reality is, there's another one that took off. I mean, that actually those two incidents, the getting spooked and then Paul Rudd, happened 2 days apart from one another.
Oh, really?
And from what I remember, I think it was 2 or 3 days apart. And there again, you don't know what the internet's going to deem as fascinating or funny, but obviously Paul Rudd made that moment what it was, and to be able to have a lighthearted moment like that and say party at my mom's, and then the whole $5 cover at the end was my favorite part. And then he even said that people showed up to his mom's because he grew, his mom still has a house there just outside of Kansas City. And so people, who know the family actually showed up for that party. So, and then people were even texting me that night, hey, what's the address? I'm like, you guys, it's obviously, he wasn't being serious about this, but he did say if the Royals win the World Series this year, that he is going to have a party at his mom's. He says it's going to be 2 kegs. So keep that in mind that, but obviously, here in Detroit, we don't want to see the Kansas City making the World Series before we get there,
Johnny Kane from Fox Sports Detroit with us chatting one-on-one sports. You can follow him at Twitter at Johnny Kane FSD. You can see his great work at Fox Sports Detroit. And when the Tigers are on, sometimes he's hosting the pre and post game. Now, earlier you were talking about some challenges with reporting. Did you find that it was difficult going live with people trying to, spook you or get in your way? Is that just one of the, nuances of the job?
Yeah, I think that's just something you understand. And like the other day I was going to do for Game 6, I was going to be doing a live hit at Hockeytown, for the Lightning and Wings. And obviously, hey, anytime you're going to, that's part of the badge you wear as a reporter is you're going to be out there getting the mix with the people. And, there was a point in time there where fans were yelling certain things that Jameis Winston was tied to and some of a vulgar expression that was being yelled out during some stuff. And anyway, so as long as, when you're going live, that's the risk that you run, right? So when you're on television, and that's kind of the risk you run when you're doing a live shot, is somebody else could really spoil that moment, or then you apologize for what you heard in the background there. But I've never been in extreme danger. Most people, again, you're having a couple cold ones, most of the time. And they're just having some fun. And for whatever reason, whenever there's a live camera, as you've noticed, people do not act themselves. I mean, people go crazy. So I guess the closest I came to having a real issue was in San Francisco covering the World Series. And we actually had our own police detail for this block of reporters because we were reporting right live outside the park there. And anyway, one guy came by and he did kind of like throw like a forearm shiver. And then, my photographer jumped out from behind and grabbed this guy and pointed like to leave. And then the other guy comes at my photographer. And then, the cops were right there. But, again, that was an instance where, emotions were running high and it was right after the game and at AT&T Park there. And one guy, again, he looked like he had more than a couple. But, anyway, that's just part of the deal of being a reporter. And, you don't ever really think too much about it.
Okay, so now you're here in Detroit, and you're primarily, covering the Tigers, and we've watched them, start off 14-6. They're playing really well, and it's one of those things where Tigers fans have a lot of hope and a lot of expectations with this team. And so we'll chat a little bit about the Tigers and get your sense as to where this team is at after 20 games. I'm fascinated with the start because a lot of people right now in Detroit are really thinking, this team needs to give us a payoff. It's been now 31 seasons since the Tigers have won a World Series, and this team has a significantly large payroll. Dave Dombrowski has, made a lot of moves to try and get this team to the World Series. What do you think at this point in time with the Tigers? Do you think that this team, as assembled, has a chance to be competitive in the AL Central with what's been going on around the Central? Oh,
I don't think there's any question. I think if you would have said, 4 or 5 weeks ago, you would say, okay, any 3, maybe even 4 teams in this division could contend. No knock on Minnesota, but I don't include them in my short list. But now you look at the way things have played out, and again, you know how it is in baseball. I mean, the season is long, and so we've got to get a better sample. But right now it's a 2-horse race, obviously, between Kansas City and Detroit. And like I said, with my ties in KC there, they didn't do a ton this offseason. And but a couple of the pieces that they did get, have proven pretty good. Paulo Orlando and the Kendrys Morales and Edinson Volquez. Well, he's serving a suspension now. But anyway, I think that, the Royals I don't know if they got exponentially better in the offseason, but they're playing really well. And a lot of their core pieces are, swinging the bat well. And that's what's kept them in it because they didn't have any power last year. But when you talk about Detroit and the pieces that they brought in, or even the healthy pieces that are back, like a Jose Iglesias. I mean, there's not a man walking the street right now that would say, holy cow, like what he's been able to do in spring training didn't have all that great of offensive numbers. But here's a guy, you can bat him at the top of the order or at the bottom of the order, and he's hovering right around 400 after 20 games. Now, again, smaller sample size, but if a guy like Jose Iglesias, and he almost hit for the cycle, in the opener against Minnesota. So, this is a guy who's swinging the bat really well. And then defensively as a glove, the other really good shortstop in the division, obviously would be Alcides Escobar in Kansas City. But, Iglesias he's made plays already this season where you'd say we might not see a better one. And then he goes out the next day and does something special. So to me, Jose Iglesias has been great. Anthony Gose is a guy to me, again, like he's a career, maybe 241 hitter. Now all of a sudden he's batting, 319. Now he struggled with strikeouts here lately, and that's why they wanted to play the hot hand with Rajay before he got hurt. But Anthony Gose is another guy. If you can platoon in center field with Gose and Rajay, you have to feel really good about that because you know what your bookends are on the side there with Yoenis and JD. So to me, it's been terrific. I think the lineup is terrific. I think that defensively, it's a terrific team. I don't know if there's a better defensive team in in the division. So I think, again, like anybody else, I'm not telling anybody anything new here about, the bullpen is going to be key. Starting pitching has been pretty good to this point, but it's going to come down to the bullpen. Some people say, well, Joe Nathan did the Tigers a favor by getting injured, but I look at it the other way. I say, I don't think so, because whether or not you can make the argument, whether or not you want him to be the closer, but you're losing an option, right? You're losing a body in the bullpen that could have bought you some time. Joakim Soria is certainly 2-time All-Star. He can be a viable closer. I'm not worried about him. But, Al Albuquerque hasn't looked himself here lately or to start the season. And Jabba had looked really good up here until his last relief appearance. So, there's some pieces there where you say, well, you can't just say, well, we're all set. Everything's going to be fine. But certainly you're not going to complain about it, 14-6 start through 20 games. You're right there. And I think it's going to be really competitive, moving forward. I don't think, Chicago is going to labor as much as they have, and Cleveland certainly is better than what their record would indicate. But I think if you're a Tigers fan, you certainly feel comfortable with what you've got. And then the main thing is just about staying healthy, right? Keeping the guys healthy and where you're going to get a couple off days for Victor. And obviously Miguel has not shown any ill effects of his off-season lower body injury. So, yeah, I think you feel good about it. And you say, all right, here we go. We got this thing.
So now a lot of talk around the water cooler here in Detroit among the fans is, okay, this team has been contending now, has won 4 straight AL Central titles, but they haven't done well in the playoffs, in the postseason. Do you think that the fans should really have some ill will or some resentment that, hey, if this team doesn't win the World Series, should maybe Dave Dombrowski's seat get a little bit warmer?
I don't think so. I think, Dombrowski's as good as they get in the game. I mean, the reality is you control what you can control, and when you get to the postseason, it's a different animal. There's nobody in that Tigers clubhouse that would say, yeah, we had a pretty good year last year. I mean, that's a bitter taste, getting swept by Baltimore. So, and really, had they, if they could find a way to get through that series, it might have been a different story because, Kansas City could not beat Detroit last year. And so, if they could have gotten around it, maybe Detroit wins the next series and it's a different story. But again, the what ifs and hypotheticals. But the reality is when you've won 4 straight division titles, that's tough to do, right? And the division has obviously gotten better year after year. There's not as much, there's obviously more parity from top to bottom right now. But I don't think Dombrowski's seat, would be any warmer if they don't take another step in the postseason. It comes down to the guys getting it done. And if you're good enough to win a division during the regular season, now it's just, hey, let's get it done in the post. And winning a World Series is tough, guys. So there are some teams, that go, I hate to keep drawing back on my time in Kansas City, but I will because it makes sense. They went 29 years without making the playoffs, even making the playoffs. So I understand, they won it all in 85. But that was the last time they were in the postseason. So I know here in Detroit, there's, hey, man, we haven't won a title, in a number of years. But you'd say, okay, but still, we're getting the opportunity to get there. We're putting good teams out there. Hey, the window with this particular core group and, how long is Price going to be around and what's going to happen with JV. Certainly I could understand where they'd say, hey, with this particular unit, this might be our best opportunity to get it done. So you would hope that they could take another step this postseason. But, again, it's just a different animal in the postseason, and that's why you see wild card teams, representing, each division in the World Series. I mean, it's just a different animal.
Yeah, but just some of the issues that people point to is the whole Doug Fister trade, letting go of a number 3 starter for really not much of a return, and then taking well over 2 or 3 seasons to construct a bullpen. Most would think that a general manager of his talent and of his ilk should find individuals that could be a little bit more serviceable than we got. And so that's where the source of concern is that we have a team. Obviously, there's no complete team in baseball, but you have a significant weakness that, by all accounts and by what everyone's looking at, has kind of gotten worse as the last couple of years have progressed.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, that's what fans do. So you can say, let's look at the trades that didn't work, or let's look at the guys that didn't pan out. And then if you want to, you could say, okay, let's look at the trades that did work. Like when they were able to bring Cabrera here, right? To me, you would say, okay, let's look at our 3, 4, 5, and 6 hitters right now. Tell me who has a better 3 through 6 right now. Okay. Hey, are we spending a little money to get it done? Sure. They were able to acquire a David Price last year. Okay. To me, it's like, yeah, we can look at some of the trades that didn't work, or we didn't pay Max this, or we lose Rick. At the end of the day, this is, Anibal Sanchez is looks like he's getting back to what he was. I don't hate the I don't hate the starting rotation. I certainly don't hate the lineup. I love the defensive upgrades. And you could say, yeah, did it take a little while to get the bullpen assembled, to where you want it? And it's not where you want it. So, okay, you could maybe make a knock there, but you can't get it all done in 1 year. And I guess the other thing I would say is, to me, I understand that the farm system isn't all that great, but for a number of years, there were teams that had, some of the top-rated farm systems, but that doesn't, pan out to the major leagues. So the way Dombrowski's built this team, again, other people, that's what fans do. So if they want to complain about certain things, and you could talk about the Fister trade and all that, and I get it, and that's part of that's part of it, being a fan. But at the end of the day, I kind of look at it the other way and say, hey, they've done an exceptional job, and not that we're taking things for granted here, but I think sometimes it's when you get so close and you get to the postseason, don't get there, that's easier to say, man, we didn't get better enough, But that's baseball, man.
And now we're in a series versus Minnesota, not a team that scares a lot of Detroit fans, but coming up on the 30th, 4-game series versus Kansas City on the road. Talk about this important matchup, and what are you seeing now? Kansas City is formidable, and right away you can point to, though, an obvious strength of a team that's going to be our competitor, Their bullpen is lights out. It's going to be tough to score runs. And now the Tigers are a little bit more of an offensive team. It's going to be a great 4-game series this weekend, must watch, versus a team that everyone thinks is going to be our biggest rival.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. I think that, like I had alluded to, I think it'll be a 2-horse race. And again, I think Chicago and Cleveland will get in there a little bit. But I think it's going to come down to it, where you say, okay, how do these two teams stack up? Yeah, certainly. Yeah, Kansas City has the best, has the best 7, 8, 9 pitchers in baseball, right? I mean, and they had it last year. So, but where was the starting pitcher? I mean, that was kind of the questions for them. But now, they're pitching better and they're hitting with a little more power. We'll see how things kind of play out. But, I think for Detroit, it's going to come down to strong starting pitching again, because you don't want to get in those late innings, because you're not going to play catch up against a Kansas City team once they get to the 7th inning. So, but again, hey, we're early in the season, but it's a big set because we've got the 4 against them, and then they come back here in early May, like the second week of May. So you get those against Kansas City, and like, again, last year when it comes down to winning the division by a game, if you can get, you want to win these series when you get an opportunity to face them head to head. You don't want things to be out of your hands. So I think it'll be competitive, and I know the Royals have gotten the bad rap here, and for good reason, because of their antics. Giordano Ventura has been kind of the head of the snake there, when mixing it up with Mike Trout of the Angels, Brett Lawrie of the A's, and then Adam Eaton of the White Sox, and we've got benches clearing, and we've got suspensions, and there were 9 ejections going into their last mix-up with the White Sox, and it's like, man, guys, like, let's settle in, let's play baseball. And I think they need to move past that stigma. But here's another thing, a team that probably felt a little disrespected coming into this season. Sports Illustrated and picking the Indians to win the doggone World Series, but not that I put a lot of stock into preseason predictions. But anyway, I think Kansas City kind of felt a little bit disrespected, and again, it's not the entire team that's going out there not playing the right way, but you got a young pitcher in Giordano Ventura, and he's just got to settle in. Just signed a big deal, and you can't be throwing at guys, because eventually you're going to get one of your own guys hurt, and if they were to lose a guy, a Mike Moustakas or an Eric Hosmer, if he gets hit and is out for a couple of months, with a broken hand or something like that, then you would say, okay, now we got problems. But again, I think it's early. We've seen a lot of that in baseball. But I don't see any fireworks taking place between the Royals and Tigers. But if there are, I would stand behind Jabba Chamberlain. That's what I would do.
Nice.
I'd let him go out there first.
Before, I got a couple more thoughts about baseball, some news and notes that have come out this week that have been topical that I definitely want to get your opinion on. But I want to switch gears just a little bit. You were chatting a little bit earlier this year before the Tigers started, and you were talking to an individual on a podcast, and you were kind of previewing the Tigers season, and he threw out a great question to you. But once I heard it, I literally had a reaction, and I will say I chuckled a little bit, and I'm going to try and persuade you to change your answer right here on this one-on-one podcast with Johnny Kane. So the question was posed to you, hey, let's say, for example, you're a Major League Baseball player, and they all have great entrance music. A lot of the Tigers are, Latino. They have a lot of upbeat music. And you thought about it for a second, and you said that had you been given the option of being a Major League professional player, you would like to walk out to this. Mr. Kane, we're going to tag. Let's sit for a minute. And just listen.
It's my song right here.
Okay, let's just listen to this jam for a few minutes and let the audience ponder what you would walk out to. Johnny Kane, Fox Sports Detroit.
These are the days of the endless summer. These are the days.
40,000 people. Mr. Kane would like to walk out to this kind of music, fellas.
There is no path. There's only future.
All right, Mr. Kane, how do you answer for this entrance music that you would decide to subject an audience full of paying fans? You would walk out to. Tell us what this song is and why this song you'd walk out to.
Well, that's Van Morrison, These Are the Days, and in my opinion, it's the greatest song that's ever been written. Now, does it translate to the park? Maybe not now that I'm hearing it again. Considering that's the song that my sister danced to at her wedding. But anyway, no, that's my favorite. That's my favorite song of all time. Van Morrison, These Are the Days. But yeah, probably I might need to mix it up because we might need something a little more upbeat. But hey, that's a song right there. It gets you dialed, it gets you locked in. I mean, you get mellowed out, clear the mechanism, head up to the dish, get ready to go. But you're gonna try to convince me otherwise, huh? Probably. Maybe I need to come up with a.
Okay, well, now we have
two.
a chance here on the podcast. I embrace solutions. So I'm not going to say I didn't laugh out loud, but I did say, wow, he's really kind of a laid back individual. Would come out to that lazy ground ball, and that's that.
And that's it.
And that's that.
Yeah,
but so we have a chance. So I got a couple songs here on my phone, and we'll see if they sparks about. All right, this is a little bit old school, but what about this? A little upbeat.
Yeah, I know this one. Yeah,
this is Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy. Yeah, I got this.
How you gonna go wrong with little Eddie Murphy?
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, that's all right. I'll put that in my short list.
Okay.
Yeah, party all the time.
Not bad. See, a little bit upbeat. Not too bad. A little bit excited,
Yeah, I could work with that.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the great songs. That's a good trivia question because a lot of people, they know the song, but nobody knows it's Eddie Murphy.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
a lot of people don't know that. And a lot of people were surprised that, Eddie Murphy did a record. That's really interesting. Another one. Now, if you know in Detroit, heavy Middle Eastern population. So what do you think about something here, a little bit of a Middle Eastern kind of flair? Something a little little upbeat.
Yeah, I don't dislike it. I could be swayed, I suppose. Yeah, I think that could get people rocking a little bit. I mean, it's to each his own. But yeah, I'll put that on. Maybe I just need a rotation a little bit, right? I mean, we could maybe mix in. We could do a little Eddie Murphy party all the time, and then go into this one here, and then maybe every other Sunday we could break out some These Are the Days, some Van, just to kind of keep it real.
You still keep it in the rotation?
Well, it depends how I'm swinging the bat that day. You know?
Okay.
I mean, sometimes, hey, if I need to.
So it sounds like I'm hearing
mellow out.
You're a little superstitious.
Yeah, you could say that. You could say that.
All good. Okay, so Johnny Kane is open to suggestions, which is good. A stubborn person is not a person that is easy to work with, so that's good.
That's right.
So that's good. So you're open to suggestions and open to possibly picking up a little bit more of an upbeat entrance song.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, but I don't think it's something we're going to have to worry about here because if you ever saw me take BP, you don't have to worry about it.
Okay, something else. If you had, in your iPod or iPhone, any other song that's a little upbeat, what else would you think to possibly put in there to mix in the rotation from your own collection? A little bit more upbeat.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. You know what song I really like? And I actually just the other day I downloaded another Eminem song, Rap God, which I like. But the Detroit vs. Everybody is a song that I will work out to. But I think that would make a lot of sense, right? I would go with, I mean, if I wanted to really kick it up a notch, now it's quite a big jump from These Are the Days to Detroit vs. Everybody. But I do love that song a ton, and that gets me going a little bit. So, it's all depending on how you're feeling on the day.
Johnny Kane, one-on-one with the doc. We're talking a little baseball. Couple news and notes from this week. Some of the pitchers in the National League are kind of talking a little bit angrily about the having to bat. Wainwright was injured for the season. Max Scherzer is going to miss his next start because he's saying, hey, I got a issue with my thumb from swinging the bat. But what's been your opinion of this whole talk again, the whole issue of the designated hitter in the National League? Yeah,
and I said, Madison Bumgarner came out, talking against Scherzer. He said, pitchers need to hit. The reality is, I'm of the same mindset. I like the National League rules. I grew up, my mom grew up just outside of Chicago, so we grew up watching a lot of Cubs games, and that's my National League team. But I love the rules. I love, I love watching the managers try to, mold what they're going to do late in games because you've got to work around that. I mean, it's like a chess match. Now, from a fan standpoint, if you've only loved the DH or if you're a newer fan of the sport and you say, well, why in the world? I don't want to watch the pitcher hit. And there are very few really capable hitting pitchers. But that's the rule, man. And when you were a kid and when all of us played high school, played in high school or played Little League, if you pitched, you hit. And when you get to the big leagues, sometimes if you play If you play on one side of the league, you don't have to. But when you were in college, you hit. So to me, that's what the sport is all about. Now, is every guy out there that's playing a great all-around player? No. Are some guys specialty, have specializations? Yeah. That's why you got the DH spot, right? But to me, I like the rules. And so, like you said, if all of baseball were that way, then we could talk about it. But that's a hypothetical. Here's the reality. The National League and the American League rules have been the way that they have been. And to me, I like watching it. I like watching both leagues for different reasons. And so now when you see something happen, it's a fluke, right? With Wainwright. I mean, he's coming out of the box on a routine pop fly. You can't predict that those things are going to happen. When they do, you say, doggone it, or, a guy like Scherzer or whatever blisters his hand. Well, can't predict that's going to happen, but that's part of what could happen. Well, it could have very easily happened, while he was pitching or throwing a, simulated inning, or same with Wainwright. Could have happened when he was, in a delivery. So the fact that it happened in the batter's box and all of a sudden there's the outcry, I thought Brad Ausmus said it best. He said, yeah, it may open the discussion that pitchers shouldn't be hitting, but at the end of the day, those are the rules. So I don't worry about it. And I don't think that baseball should try to pursue changing the rules. That's my own opinion. I don't think they should try to change it.
Okay, and also, too, with interleague play. Last week in the series versus the Yankees, there was a game where it was snowing. Mm-hmm. And because the Yankees are only coming into town for 4 games, they kept the fans there for a long period of time, and some people had to eat expensive tickets. And the reason why the Yankees are only coming into town 4 times is because we're playing against, we have a balanced interleague schedule.
Right.
What's your reaction now with the expanded, interleague play? A lot of people would say, you could adjust this by having 16 teams in the American League or 16 teams in the National League and 14 teams in the American League. And what that would do is you wouldn't have to play so many interleague series. And the reason why, a team like in Detroit, we want to see the Yankees. We want to see Boston more. We don't want to see this many interleague games. You're talking about the expansion and, and also inclement weather in April. Should they have kind of canceled the game?
Well, yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I get it. And that's, guys get pressed up against that. And we're kind of seeing that right now with the Baltimore and the White Sox series too. It's like, well, we got to try to find a day. I mean, I don't know how many people that are, clamoring to see that, see that makeup game, but they're going to have to make it up, right? And really, how much bearing is it going to have on the, the overall picture? Who knows? But yeah, I don't know. I don't think that we need to expand. That they needed to expand so much interleague because, like you say, I mean, it creates problems, and not that it's not fun to see, play some teams that we're not used to seeing. But at the end of the day, it's like, hey, let's compete against our league. Let's figure. I don't know if we need to expand interleague so much as the way they have. And I think again, you set yourself up for issues like we had from the weather standpoint and all that. It's like sometimes you just get forced up against it, and you say, well, from a logistics standpoint, we got to try to get this. We got to try to get this in, or we went through that in Kansas City, a couple years back too. And sometimes you don't have to make, you only end up playing 161 games because you don't even need the makeup because you're not even in the playoff discussion. But yeah, I mean, to me, I like, I want to see American League versus American League, and I want to see National League versus National League until we get to October. Yeah, I mean, I like to see a little bit of it, but I don't think we need to expand it to what it's been.
Yeah, it was a little culture shock to see we're playing a series versus Pittsburgh in the second or third series of the season.
Right.
But a lot of people say, well, just move Houston back, and then you wouldn't have to do this, and we can go back. I just think I like interleague play. I like the concept, but for me personally, I just wish they would do it the way when they first introduced it. A couple series, and
wet
that's
the
it.
Palate a little bit. Yeah,
and that's it. And you can maybe develop some rivalries, maybe versus the Cubs or regionally, and you can spark some things. But no, the way it is now, I'm not a big fan of it, and we just want to see teams like Boston and the Yankees coming into town a little bit more, not the first week of April and playing a series when it's snowing.
Right.
Come on now. It makes things tough for everybody, and you want to make the experience more fan friendly.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I'm with you.
Let's switch gears a little bit. Some news now tonight. When this comes out, the Red Wings will be playing Game 7 versus Tampa Bay. It's people in Detroit a little bit panicked. You had a chance to end the series. Really an intense game, a real playoff game. I was in attendance, and you really got a sense of the vibe. The fans were outstanding. When Mrazek made that unbelievable save, when Cronwall nailed the Tampa Bay player, the Joe Louis Arena erupted. But Tampa Bay, Tyler Johnson is stepping up. He's an amazing hockey player. Game 7, what are you thinking?
Well, honestly, I felt great about Game 6, and I think you go into every game thinking you got a great shot to win it. And the way Peter Mrazek's been playing, you had to feel really good about Game 6. But once you get behind in a 2-goal deficit, and again they were able to, they made that a heck of a game. But the problem is, it's, again, everybody knows the series. I mean, there's nobody's won back-to-back games. And so, Tampa Bay is so stinking good at home, and they were so great at home during the regular season. Only lost, I think, 8 games. And then here already in the postseason, Detroit's got the better of them a couple times. So, the task will be tall. It'll be formidable having to go on the road and try to play in that arena, because you would say from the odds are it'll be difficult to win a Game 7 in Tampa Bay. But again, Mrazek with 2 shutouts this series made some spectacular saves in Game 6, but obviously did get beat on a few too, and they weren't soft goals. So I like Detroit's chances. Certainly, we'll have to see what comes of it with the Cronwall decision. But to me, I thought that they took the fight to Tampa Bay in the middle games of this series, and that's what you have to do. And I think aggressive on the forecheck and all that stuff to continue to put pressure on Tampa. Tyler Johnson, you can't give him an inch, but he's what does he have? 6 goals, I think, in this series.
6 goals in the series.
So it's ridiculous. But I mean, Tampa Bay, you would say, if you looked at it on paper, you'd say Tampa Bay has more talent. But at the end of the day, who's going to have more heart in Game 7? And I think Detroit, again, you had the opportunity to get it done here. You didn't. You head there. Mrazek is, if Mrazek is dialed in, we saw Thomas Tatar break out a little bit there in Game 6, okay? If he carries that with him, I'd like to see the captain, kind of captain lead the way in Game 7. That's what you got to have, right? I mean, you got to have Henrik and Pavel be the guys. But I think Detroit's got just as good a shot as any to win this one, and then you get ready for Montreal. But man, what a series it's been here in Tampa, because you could say, well, the series should be over. Detroit should have already won it.
Yeah, Johnny, this series has been super exciting, and the great thing about a hockey playoff series, it's totally different than the regular season. The intensity, and you got the storylines with Mike Babcock, the young players, Mrazek over Howard, and then you got the whole Steve Yzerman.
Sure,
it was a great series, and I'm looking forward to a Game 7. Anything can happen. It's going to be a super exciting game, and it's one of those things where you can't really decide. The momentum in this series hasn't carried over.
Right.
Every other game,
there hasn't been.
There hasn't been no momentum, and who's going to be the star? I think if the Red Wings score first, if they can, take the play to Tampa Bay, and if maybe Tatar, Nyquist, the young gun can get an easy first goal.
And Nyquist is due. Nyquist is due. I'll tell you, my favorite. If I had to wear a jersey or a sweater at the game, I'd be wearing Justin Abdicator. Love the way the guy plays. Love the way he plays, and he's going to be one of the guys who's going to help set the tempo there in Game 7 any chance he gets. So love if Abs, man, that's a guy who I would say he's playing the right way right now, and get everybody else behind him. We'll be all right.
Yeah. Now I'm interested also now to get your opinion on kind of the era we're in sports. Lots of people are talking about, NFL concussions, hockey concussions. It hits home close to Detroit in that Johan Franzen is maybe going to have to retire due to repeated concussions. We're in an era now of really focusing on head trauma and kind of going away from the fighting in hockey, the big hit in football. What's just been your opinion now in this era of sports, focusing a little bit more on player safety? In my opinion, I don't like it. If you're an individual that wants to play a professional sport like hockey or football, you kind of know going into it, this is not an easy sport. There is an elevated risk you could walk away injured. But for players now to look back and say, well, you didn't protect me, or to go back and get restitution, I don't think it's fair, because going into it, football is not a sport and hockey's not a sport you can enter into lightly and think that you can just play a career and not have some potential issues.
Yeah, no, I think it's a discussion that I'm glad that there is more discussion about, because anytime you can enhance player safety, I think you should. But when you start to strip the game away from what made it the game, I think that's where you have a lot of people having issues.
Exactly.
And so we'll talk about the NFL, because I think with the NFL is where it's most apparent, where they start, you start taking away hits, defenseless receiver, and you would say, well, what's a defenseless receiver? And the good blindside hits, like Croner had the other day. But to me, again, any way you can enhance player safety, we should. And if the helmets get better, then that's one way about doing it. And there are some certain, if you're targeting a guy or spearing, all those things, I mean, they've taken out of the game. Targeting is one where I say, that ain't any good. But, football plays are football plays, and that's what makes it, it's a violent sport, and anybody who's ever played it will tell you the same. Same within hockey. Obviously, you can't be leaving your feet and coming into guys. There's one thing about playing aggressive, and you want to have physical contact, but then if you see a dirty player or a dirty play, it needs to be flagged. It needs to be whistled. But making a good play, good aggressive, hard play, and the other guy happens to collapse, or crumble, was it necessarily a penalty? or just a good, strong physical play. I think it's a fine line of trying to keep those plays in sport and rid yourselves of the dirty play. And, and you know a dirty play when you see it. You know what I mean? But I think more often than not, what we're seeing is, we're seeing guys getting penalized for making good, hard plays. But it's almost like I think it's going to take some time until we can start to see that line a little more clearly, because right now there's a lot of gray area.
And I believe that, intensity, hard checks. Look what happened when Cronwall, with that big check, it erupted the stadium, and then it carried over into momentum for the Red Wings. A big hit in football can help a football team, and sports like that, you need that passion. And what also makes it challenging for the players is you have to be more reactionary. You can't be thinking all the time, and you may have an increased risk of getting hurt if you're always thinking about, well, I can't hit below the knees, I can't hit above the knees, I can only hit in a certain target area. I just think there has to be a little bit more leeway in terms of letting these guys play football and letting these guys play hockey without so much restriction, because I think there's a chance that these players are thinking too much and it's resulting in a lower quality of play. And something that I've noticed, and me and Adam, my co-host at the Doc and Jock podcast, we've talked about quite a bit. It's an interesting discussion.
I think, and again, because you're starting to clean up the sport, in football 10 years from now may not look like it does now, but all that stuff has to get started at the lower level. So I think the tough adjustment that we've seen from players is you've learned to play the sport one way your whole life, and then all of a sudden somebody says, wait a minute, no, you can't hit below the knees against quarterbacks. So what do you mean? Right? So I think once it starts, when these kids, and I don't have kids, but if you have kids starting out that they learn the sport, okay, when you're tackling, you can only go between shoulder blades and knees. You can never hit a player that doesn't have his head turned around. I mean, once you learn at a young age of how to play a sport the right way, maybe the sport will move into a different version of what it is. I think right now it's just been tough because guys have learned to play it the same way for so long, and now all of a sudden they say, hey, next year you can't do this. And then we're seeing guys getting injured at a higher rate.
For all Lions fans, Thursday night, it's the Super Bowl. It's the Lions draft. You've been keeping tabs? You thinking we're going to go running back Gurley? You know what? Between you and I just wish that Gurley was a football player that is not coming off of a knee injury, because it causes a great unknown. But all accounts, people are boosting him up. His stock is rising, and a lot of the analysts are slotting the Lions 23, Todd Gurley. Say you?
I'll tell you what. To be honest with you, I have not dialed in as much on my draft analysis or my draft coverage going in. But yeah, I mean, certainly you're going to need a running back. I don't think you'd be disappointed in Gurley. Like you said, yeah, there's a reason why he's probably, 23 because he's coming off the injury. But, hey, man, my buddy was just in town, and, again, I grew up around here. So I grew up, following the Pistons, Tigers, and Lions to a degree. But my buddy was just in town. He's just a diehard. I mean, he is a diehard Lions fan, and I know that the draft is very important to him too. And I think he feels pretty good about Gurley too. So I'm going to take his and your thoughts and say that'll work.
Okay,
that'll work.
Okay, Todd Gurley, Johnny Kane gives it a thumbs up. Now, the reason why Lions fans that are really hardcore with the draft. Okay, you draft a running back, but you don't have an offensive line. Yeah. Typical Lions. The last question for the Lions is your thoughts on, obviously, the number one player, Matthew Stafford. You've probably watched him a little bit, and a lot of people are saying, hey, okay, 6-7 years in the league, big contract, no playoff wins. Is it time to kind of maybe start thinking about, is this the guy? Or do we say, okay, wait another season, and Martin Mayhew continues to pump him up and say, hey, listen, this is a quarterback year after year that's giving us 4,000 yards. Right. It's consistent, but, this is a results business. No playoff wins.
Yeah, again, and here's the deal. When I was, at previous jumps, and they didn't have quarterbacks there either. They have a quarterback here. And same people in Chicago would say about Cutler, man, we got to cut bait, go a different direction. There are so few quality quarterbacks in this league, and Matthew Stafford is a quality quarterback. I get it. I mean, I get it. If you're a diehard fan, you're like, man, but who's better, right? And so you're going to cut bait on a guy who's put up the production he does. Yeah. At the end of the day, what's it? What are you remembered for? Super Bowls and things of that nature. Well, how many people love the quarterbacks that get them to the playoffs? You get like one playoff win and then you never get a ring. I mean, the ultimate goal is a ring. So Matthew Stafford has what, one fewer ring than Peyton Manning, or one less ring? Or did Peyton win two? No, Peyton's only won one, right?
Only won one.
So you follow me? I mean, to me, it's like he's going to keep you competitive. You alluded to it earlier. We got to bulk up the offensive line. Continue to provide weapons around him, But, you got to protect your guy and your franchise quarterback. Sometimes, he might try to thread the needle a little more than he should. And you could say, hey, give me the gaudy numbers and all that in the regular season, but get me a postseason win. Again, he's been in the league long enough. Ask me again a year from now. And because I think this team, and you have to remember, like with the change, head coaching changes and things of that, different systems that you have to continue to go through. I say, hey, let's not let go of our optimism with Matt Stafford.
Johnny Kane, Fox Sports Detroit. You can follow him at Johnny Kane FSD. Has been chatting one-on-one with the doc. Do you follow any fringe sports? UFC, tennis, soccer?
Oh yeah, I mean,
which one you watch? Which ones you follow the most?
Oh, I would probably say it's a smattering. I mean, but I would say I watch UFC and. I watch soccer, but when I was watching mostly MLS, I'm not a huge. I understand a little bit about I understand the game, but there are some guys. They asked me. I met this guy the other day. He said, "Hey, who's your favorite football team?" I answered, and he said, "No, football team." One of those guys. So big. Some of that.
Just tell Manchester United, Liverpool.
Right. Okay.
All you got to do that. You say Manchester United, Liverpool. You're in the conversation.
Yeah. He was a big Liverpool guy. It's funny you say that. So anyway, but yeah, a little bit there. But when I was in Kansas City, Sporting KC won the Cup in 2012. It was a special time, but yeah, you appreciate that sport. And the one thing about it is, are you a big soccer guy?
Soccer guy.
Did you play when you were younger?
I played a little bit recreationally for exercise, but never. My sport I played in high school was tennis.
Okay, right on. Yeah, and I love playing tennis too. We didn't have, again, I think soccer is one of those sports that's growing so much with attention, and there's so many more youth programs, but they didn't have it in my hometown, so I was never able to play it, and really you don't understand like all the rules and the nuances of the game. But I think more people that are getting involved now, you appreciate what it is, and I played in a quote unquote celebrity match at halftime of an MLS game between Chicago Fire and Sporting KC. It was a 12-minute running clock, and the rest of the media personnel, myself included, we were gassed after about 10. So when you watch these guys, man, world-class athletes, tremendous shape. And I don't think you get that, understanding as much when you're just watching on television. But if you could ever get out there on the pitch and try, test yourself in muggy conditions with, what those guys are able to do, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, and you said in a relatively short period of time, the Ultimate Fighting Championship has really cemented itself as being a sport that has a lot of following, and they're putting on a lot of events, and it's just one of those things. Now they have a national contract. They're on all the time, and now they're building superstars. Ronda Rousey is considered now one of the biggest crossover stars in the world. Can be in movies, is now dabbling a little bit in professional wrestling, and they have a crossover star. And many people will argue ferociously that the UFC is bigger than boxing. But this weekend, Manny Pacquiao steps into the ring versus Floyd Mayweather. 5 years too late. My passion is a little bit diminished, and the numbers are so gaudy that I can't see myself dropping 100 bones to go to a bar to watch it, right. Or getting friends, 2-3 friends and dropping 35 on it, because you just never know. Are you going to get a good quality fight? Are these guys, Floyd Mayweather is known to duck and weave? What's your thoughts about the boxing? Are you gonna plunk down some money or watch it?
Yeah. So Saturday's a big day because you've got Royals Tigers, Kentucky Derby, which I'll be there, and then Mayweather Pacquiao. So I told my brother he's going to be with me at the Derby. I said, hey man, we got to be somewhere that night to get that fight. So again, maybe it comes 5 years too late, but here's the thing. They call him Money Mayweather for a reason, and if he took the fight 5 years ago, people weren't going to pay the kind of money over these last 5 years to watch him continue to fight. So he basically, now you get to the end, you're like, okay, now I'm going to fight him because it's going to be your last ginormous payday. Unless Pacquiao were to find a way to win it, then you get the rematch, and then of course you go to a third, like some of the great rivalries in the history of the sport. But yeah, I honestly, I'm rooting for Manny Pacquiao for a number of reasons. I don't know if he has what it takes to beat him at this point, because he's shown that has some vulnerabilities. But I think if he honestly believes, and like Freddie Roach, if he believes he is fighting against Floyd and kind of carrying the weight of all these other people that want Floyd to lose for a variety of reasons, and if he goes out there and truly leaves it all out there, truly gives it everything he has and throws punches, because we know Mayweather, he's more of the scientific boxer. Pacquiao, if he throws punches, gets dirty, gets his nose dirty, gets in there and stays within arm's reach, you never know. So It's going to be amazing to watch, and I know some people are boycotting it and boycotting the fight, given the checkered past of Floyd, and but I want to watch it for what it is, and you never know, pal. But I don't know if I'd lay any money down on that one.
Johnny Kane has been kind enough to give us his time chatting one-on-one with the doc for this special Detroit Sports Podcast interview. I greatly appreciate your time, and I want to get you out of here on this, just to get to know you a little bit better. You got 4 tickets. You can go to any sporting event, any arena, and you can take anybody with you, any 3 people with you, dead or alive. What event would you go to? What venue, and who would you take with you?
Wow, great question. Great question. I would go, man, that's a good one. I would go to the Kentucky Derby. I'm a big horse guy. We'll have to get into that next show. I've been 12 times now, but I would go to the Derby, and I would bring my dad. I would bring my brother. And, man, this is tough, dude. This is tough. I would...
Van Morrison?
Yeah, there you go.
You bring Van Morrison.
There you go. I'd bring Van, and he could sing These Are the Days too.
There you go.
On the drive
Okay,
over.
so one follow-up question. I've never been to the Derby. I obviously watched the Triple Crown. That's about it in terms of my horse racing knowledge and things like that. For those that have never been, what's that experience like?
Well, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's whether or not you get in the grandstands, if you just want to party in the infield, it's a party for sure. And I remember one year I bumped into Cal Ripken when I was walking by, and anybody who's anybody is there, and the women are all dressed up, dialed up, beautiful, and the guys certainly put on their best seersucker. It really is an experience that everybody should have an opportunity to do, or if given the opportunity, I should say you should go one time. And whether or not you're a big you're a horseman or not, it is an event. It's an experience, and I've had the opportunity to bring a number of my friends over the years, and they certainly really appreciate it. And yeah, it's just awesome, man. I mean, there's nothing like the Twin Spires of Churchill Downs and the Garland of Roses. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, man. I mean, it's Americana. This will be the 141st running. If you're looking for a bet, I like Dortmund. Bob Baffert trained horse. Dortmund for the win.
Johnny Kane, thank you so much. One-on-one with the doc. Greatly appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much.
All right, brother. Thanks for having me.